A top WWE star has quit the company. We're also going to discuss an AEW announcement, and we're going to talk a little bit more about the Wyatt Six. It's all coming up right here on the Yango Show. Yes. All right, so I want to kick things off talking about the Wyatt Six. Obviously, a lot of people are talking about the Wyatt Six because of the debut, the reveal. I did a breaking news video. Just gave you guys some quick thoughts. Obviously, I very much enjoyed this. This is the type of stuff that I love in wrestling. Some people agree, some people don't, and that's completely fine. Wrestling is subjective. You guys are free to feel the way that you absolutely do. But there is something very interesting that is not being discussed when talking about the Wyatt Six, and it really comes down to why they did what they did. And I think a lot of people see these QR codes, they see the teases, they see a whole bunch of words, but I don't think they're truly listening to the things that are being said by the Wyatt Six. Now, the Wyatt Six took out Karrion Kross, Chad Gable, and all of these different people, Braun Strowman. I feel like Braun Strowman was there. Dominic Mysterio. Like, there's just a lot of people that were taken out. And I think one of the biggest common things that all these people have is that at some point they have all caused either harm to another person's family or to their own family, right? And like, for example, Karrion Kross, you can go back in storytelling and he caused a major shift between Dominic and Rey, right? And Rey Mysterio specifically. Also the same thing with the Bloodline. I think obviously with Dominic Mysterio, and you look at what he's currently doing with the Judgment Day, Chad Gable, what he did with Otis and the Alpha Academy. And these are things that are being pointed out on social media, which is fantastic. But a lot of what has been said, the common theme here is family and togetherness. And when you look at the Wyatt Six and what they are, I think a lot of people are looking at this from a supernatural perspective, but I think you need to shift that perspective into a cult. And that's what the Wyatt Six is. The Wyatt Six actually takes a lot more inspiration from the origin of the Wyatt family faction when it first came to television. Now, obviously, we spoke about it the other day, but Sean Ross Sapp of Fightful Select had reported that this group is supposed to be more tied to reality than supernatural. I think you also need to factor in some of the people as to why they're in this group. So Nikki Cross, I mean, for the longest time when Triple H took over Power, Nikki Cross was spectating Dexter Lumis behind the scenes in backstage interviews and stuff. She was always creeping on the way, and she was always backstage just doing her thing. I think if you go back far enough, you could find all the clues here. But to say that this is supernatural clearly isn't. My curiosity here is, because I love something like this, is the follow-up. How do you follow up with something like this? And maybe this is unrealistic to think, but the Wyatt Six also causing chaos in NXT and SmackDown would be pretty damn unique. I love the costumes. I love everything about this. I'm super excited for it. We'll keep it moving. AEW has a new announcement today. Some people are going to like this. Some people aren't going to like this. I see the pros and cons, and I'm going to talk about them. But AEW's pay-per-view archive is now available on Triller TV. Now, this is actually really important to discuss because we have been talking a lot about AEW and a potential streaming deal. This could kind of be an issue, right? So Triller TV has announced that starting this week, wrestling fans around the world can now access the extensive pay-per-view vault of All Elite Wrestling. Historic AEW pay-per-view events are available to purchase a la carte and as part of a special pay-per-view bundle package. Now, here is my issue with this. There's one little issue that I have with this. If AEW signs a streaming deal, and for this hypothetical, we're gonna say with Max streaming service, if all of the old pay-per-views are available on the Max streaming service, it is very silly for people to pay a la carte for each pay-per-view on Triller TV. Does that make sense? Like, I feel like in a way, like imagine if WWE with this Peacock deal was like, hey, we're going to sell our 2023 pay-per-views for $100, you know, on their website. But then instead of going on their website to do it, you could just go on Peacock and watch them for the monthly charge that you pay. That's my point. With that being said, though, there's a couple pros to this. You do get the unlimited on-demand viewing of these events. So when you do purchase them on Triller TV, like, this is not a thing where you buy it and it goes away. You pay for it, you get to keep it, you get to keep watching it on demand. Also, one thing to keep in mind is that Triller, and it kind of gets confusing with AEW, because AEW for a long time was using Bleacher Report, but now AEW is kind of doing this thing with Triller, where I think in a way it's like kind of opened itself up for the US market. So I'm bringing that up for a good reason, because if it was just for international people, for the international audience that doesn't have access to whatever AEW streaming service lands on, then it's obviously a solution. But if Triller is now open to the US market, that's where I could see some of the confusion. My point that I'm making is, it's cool that they have this as an offering. It does make me a little bit more pessimistic about what could be done with the streaming deal. One thing that Andrew Zarian keeps on talking about, especially with the AEW TV deal, is that, like both sides want to come to an agreement and they haven't come to an agreement. So they're negotiating. There's a reason why they haven't agreed to a deal. Is it the streaming stuff? Is it the pay-per-views? Is it the money? I mean, what could it be? Is AEW going to look for another TV partner? I think those things are all things we need to pay attention to, because depending on what their next move is, this particular move may not make the most sense. And now I want to turn our attention to Drew McIntyre. Now, a lot of people are talking about Drew McIntyre because he went on TV and said he quit. We all know that Drew McIntyre re-signed with the company. So what exactly is happening here? Drew McIntyre deletes his social media. He deactivates it. And it looks like he's going all in with this storyline. And it makes a lot of sense. It makes a lot of sense based on how they've been telling this story. Now, one of the big things I want to talk about here that I don't want to get lost in translation is that I believe Drew McIntyre is taking time off. Fightful Select has been very keen on reporting as of the last several months that Drew McIntyre has been working through the WWE, or at the WWE, with the WWE, despite so many personal things that have kind of come up, right? We know at Clash at the Castle, it was said that his wife was having emergency surgery. We know that he's been kind of dealing with this whole thing of like not being able to see his family all the time because he's constantly on the road and constantly doing things. So this guy clearly has some personal stuff going on, and this guy has been a workhorse for the WWE. WWE obviously appreciates him. WWE and Drew McIntyre's relationship seems to be great, but they're running a storyline in which he quits the WWE. Kind of reminds me a little bit of CM Punk in 2011. With that being said, though, I do think it's important that we acknowledge that Drew McIntyre definitely, deservedly should have time off. And I think that's what this is. I think this is a situation where Drew McIntyre is having time off, and it makes a lot of sense, and it's a good thing. So, we know CM Punk will be in Chicago on Friday Night SmackDown. Does Drew find himself there? I don't know. We're going to have to wait and see. But for those who said that Drew McIntyre not winning the championship at Clash of the Castle was a mistake, I think we're going into something absolutely incredible here, and that's why patience truly matters.